Let's be honest, there's no guidebook when it comes to relationships. So we end up having to stumble through life trying to figure things out for ourselves. What if there was a podcast that found the answers for you, that provided insight to build a successful relationship and ultimately find the companionship you've always hoped for? Welcome to the Girls Ask Guys show, where we answer the questions most people are afraid to ask when it comes to lessons in life and love. It's time to master this thing called life together with your hosts, John and Ashley.
And welcome back to the Girls Ask Guys show, where we cover life, love, dating, relationships, and everything else in between. And today, we have a special guest on our show. If you remember, we talked about the girlfriend who had a boyfriend who was addicted to porn, and it was really interfering with their relationship.
So with Eric's life, nothing really seemed to be working out. He did a 12-step program. He went to the porn addiction recovery. He saw a psychiatrist. He saw a therapist. He even had some sort of exorcism, which we definitely have to talk about, by the way, dude. And so now he's found his way. He's got a nice little thing. Powerful Eric has his own 5-star rated podcast. Hello, Eric. Or do we have to call you Powerful?
You can call me whatever you like.
Cool. So tell us about yourself.
Yeah, well, that's a great starting point, actually, about what to call me. There's a reason why I call myself Powerful Eric. So, like you said in your introduction, I was in countless 12-step programs. And in the 12-step programs, one of the first things they have you do is you say you are powerless over whatever it is, drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever. That's the first step. You say you are powerless. And I'm a very spiritual person. The 12 steps are a spiritual program. And so the experts, I went to an expert on porn and sex addiction. And one of the very first consultation I did with him, he said I needed to go to 12-step meetings. And being the good student I am, I went. And the one didn't work, so I went to another one. It didn't work. I went to another one. It didn't work, so I just kept going. I'm like, well, there must be something wrong with me.
Yep.
And I said I was powerless for almost 20 years. And then out of desperation, I found a different way on using the science of mindfulness to break addictions. It didn't happen overnight, but it did work. And so I was creating my screen login for this one mindfulness program, and just kind of on a whim, I put Powerful Eric, because for years I had called myself powerless. So I put in Powerful Eric, and it was kind of, I was excited, and I was also kind of angry and indignant. I'm like, I'm putting Powerful Eric. And so in that moment, Powerless Eric died and Powerful Eric was born.
I like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's actually a lot of what we do with people who are trying to meet somebody else. They keep going from one place to another place, reading book after book, and, well, you're powerless until you actually do this magic and you have a breakthrough. And that's where we differ from a lot of other people, because we come in and we're like, here's the science, here's the psychology, here's the sexology, here's the neurology, here's all this stuff. And we took this and applied it to the real world.
Fantastic.
Right. So I kind of see it like a link between what you discovered and what we discovered, and how we did that breakthrough using the actual science.
Right.
Using science.
Right. And you brought up using the science, and also about connecting with others and building relationships. If you are wanting to build a relationship and you are a guy, one of the surefire ways to kill your dating experience is to use porn compulsively. Right. Because you, on the computer, you are being shown countless mates over and over.
I think in the United States alone today, there are about 200,000 people that have either been diagnosed or they have
active addictions,
self-identified as porn addicts.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a study that I saw where it's roughly, trying to do my thinking back. It's the APA handbook of sexuality and psychology, where it's 50% of men and 30% of women looked at porn. And because of, it's called the AAA engine, the accessibility, affordability, and anonymity that's provided gives people they really don't have to identify with anybody. There are some videos out there where there's no faces involved. It's just the body.
Right.
Where conversely, with women, there's actually like a storyline. It's very different between the two.
Yeah. Very emotional. So I had a question. Now I just kind of want to dive straight deep into it before we get into the exorcism, because I have a lot of questions. But do you think there's a healthy way to go about this? Or do you say, is it kind of like an alcoholic where there's some people who can socially drink and there's some people who can, I guess, I don't think socially watch porn is the right word. But do you understand what I'm saying? Like, is it?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yes, there's people out there that can have the drink of porn and lead a normal life, a happy, healthy life. But then there's the people like me that take that first drink and they cannot stop. They cannot stop because there's endless novelty. Your brain is looking for a new mate all the time, and it's continually new novel situations, new mates. So you're constantly looking for that next hit. But to answer your question, the short way is yes, there absolutely are people that can use it quote unquote healthfully and those that cannot.
Yeah.
And when did you know it was like a real, I guess it sounds weird, but it's sort of like something I think everyone does. So when did you know? How do you know, okay, I have this problem? And this is for anyone listening, because I think some people hear your story and they'll get confused. Because they'll say, this kind of sounds like me, but this isn't quite me. And somebody who probably watched porn once in their life would be like, this is me, 100%. I need to go to 12-step. I'm a mess. So how did you know it was like a real problem?
Well, I knew I had a problem for a long time. The thing that broke the camel's back, so to say, was a friend of mine was dying from cancer. Now, she was in remission, but I was supposed to have a lunch date with her. And I was compulsively using porn in the morning, and we were supposed to have lunch at noon. And I realized I was going to be way late because I had lost track of time, which I often would using porn. So I just called her up. I said, Heather, can we reschedule? And she said, oh, yeah, sure, that's fine. No big deal. But then I ran into a mutual friend soon after that. And she said, we tried to get a hold of you, but Heather died. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I just talked to her. And she said, she died. And so I chose to watch porn rather than being with my friend that was dying with cancer.
That's heavy.
Yeah, I can actually identify with that. It's something I've never mentioned on the podcast. And it's one of those pivotal moments that happened in my life. It was a girl that I went out with, and I used pickup techniques with her, and she felt completely used and abused. I didn't make the connection for years. It wasn't until I spoke with the girl that I bumped into that explained it to me that I made the connection. After I broke up with her, she committed suicide.
Oh, my God.
Jesus Christ.
Oh.
I still have the funeral pamphlet.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That's heavy.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, yeah, that's dark. And, I don't know really where to go.
No, but I can totally identify.
Were you able to forgive yourself?
It took me several years, but that's one of the main reasons that I do this podcast, and I'll continue to do it and continue to fight against manipulation of other people and against people out there that teach manipulation and the scam artists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think we need a palate cleanser. So, suicides and dead friends aside, what does recovery look like in this sort of addiction? I think you have one of the most difficult addictions to navigate with, if I can be forward, because it seems like something that you wouldn't know is an addiction unless something like your friend dying and you choosing to watch porn over it would hit you.
Yeah, it is challenging because you bring it with you wherever you go.
Yeah.
With alcohol and those other things, they're outside of you. But with porn, like even if the porn's not there, you can compulsively use masturbation. So it's always there in some way, shape, or form. And nowadays with our smartphones, we're carrying around the world's largest library of porn because when I was a kid, I thought I really had something if I found a Playboy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Right in your dad's closet, right? That's awesome. Oh, no.
My brother's actually, but
either way.
You know, I really thought I had something. And nowadays, these poor kids, I feel so bad for them. These little kids are being exposed to hardcore pornography. And the thing that has been happening lately, and it's really disturbing, I got to say, this really bothers me. You know, I only coach adults that are addicted to porn. And I've been recently having children reach out to me that are addicted. And I'm almost in tears telling you this.
Like teenagers or like?
The last one was a 12-year-old girl.
Oh, my goodness.
And actually, the average age that kids are exposed to porn is 11, or at least that's what they say. But they're actually moving that back to 10 and even younger. I know somebody that, a coach that was approached, believe it or not, by an 8-year-old boy.
Wow.
What?
Yeah.
8 years old?
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember being 8.
On social media, you wouldn't believe the number of kids that send me connection requests. I'm like, oh my God.
That's heartbreaking.
It is. And that's, you know, I used to be more open to pornography, like for quote unquote fun. But the more that I've learned about it, it really can be very destructive. Like I said, if you're one of the people that can use it like a drink of alcohol and be fine, you know, that's one thing. But my question to ask that person that's okay with it is, who's making your pornography? Where's that pornography coming from? Because there's a thing called sex trafficking. Every state in the United States, there's sex trafficking. And a trafficked young girl said, when you hear the words human trafficking, that is sex trafficking. There's no difference.
Yeah, there's actually a group that I've been in touch with for the past, probably about 8-9 months. And we're just going through, we're trying to get it set up so that we can actually support, because they actually go to the countries that our government cannot go to in order to rescue people.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But being former law enforcement, I'm very familiar with human trafficking because I live on a corridor. And when I taught martial arts, I used to use this statistic all the time that where I live, within 8 hours, you are in another country. Within 72 hours, you are across the sea.
Right.
That's how fast they move. And the major city that I live next to, last week, they just busted a safe house and it was loaded with...
It's not a safe house. They should not call them safe houses.
Unfortunately, with these larger groups, you can just place an order. I want a female this tall, this color hair, this color eyes, with this build. And it's not just women, it's men as well.
Men too. And children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want a teenage boy who looks like this with this color hair. I mean, it's like you just go down a menu and a la carte, check off what you want, and they go get them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things they do...
The ones that they don't put for order is they'll put them in rooms and have them, you know, because there's those free cam websites nowadays and all that stuff. They'll put them in rooms and make them do weird things for money for strangers on the internet. And it's just, it's alarming how depraved humans are that this even exists.
Yeah.
And if they don't make enough money off them, then they turn around and resell them, and they'll go to a sweatshop or a workhouse. The people may not believe this or not, but we do have those workshops and everything else right here in the United States.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. One of the things they do with the trafficked people is they make it look like amateur porn. So you may go on to one of the big porn sites and it looks like, oh, you know, some girlfriend, boyfriend uploaded this. It's amateur pornography. No, it's professionally done. It just looks amateur.
Yeah.
It's tragic.
I was just pulling from another science thing. I had to go and open up my folder. But pulling from Personal Relationships, which was written by Patricia Marcos. She goes into saying that as far as men are concerned, they usually will watch something where you're not going to see anybody's face. And as far as the sex acts are absent of any kind of context. Whereas as far as what women prefer to watch is more like couples porn.
Right.
And it's more egalitarian participants.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're wanting to build a relationship or you want to date or get married, porn, like I said, is a surefire way to kill it because you are killing your own desire to go out into the world to find mates. Why go out in the world and find mates when you have them seemingly in front of you all the time? And also there's another thing that's called porn-induced erectile dysfunction. And this is crazy. Kids now have been watching pornography since they could click. And so what has happened now, the biggest group that need the little blue pill to get it up now are 20-year-olds because they've been watching porn all their life. And then they finally get to a real relationship and they can't get it up anymore. It's porn-induced erectile dysfunction.
That is just depressing. I gotta tell you, like, that is terrible. Turn that movie off right now, homeboy, because you're not going to be able to use it soon.
Yeah.
Like, so I guess you don't go blind, you just can't use it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the old adage of you're going to go blind, you're going to grow hairy palms.
Yeah, and I'm actually coaching a guy. I'm coaching a guy right now with this exact issue.
How, like,
Published in Sex Roles. It's written by Dr. Destin Stewart and Dawn Zimiski out at the University of Tennessee. They found that people who have a problem with porn, whether it's an actual addiction or you're getting close to the addiction or you're just participating way too much, those people actually have lower self-esteem. Mm-hmm. They have poor relationships and also lower sexual satisfaction.
Yeah. The self-esteem, that one's a big one there. For me, for years in the 12-step program, I was calling myself powerless. And then they have you describe the worst thing that you did. And don't get me wrong, they mean well. But the statistics on 12-step meetings are very low, meaning the number of people that actually overcome it is maybe 10 to max 20%. And so my self-esteem was rock bottom. And so that's another one of the reasons why I'm like, I'm going to call myself powerless, Eric, because I felt like a piece of shit for most of my life.
I can give you a hard number. The Kinsley Institute found that it was 9%.
Yeah, it's not much. I mean, because I think,
actually,
I think a big part
overall
of it
12-step programs in general, their average quote-unquote success rate is around 10 to 11.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if you were about to board a plane and they said, this plane only will give maybe a 10%. Let's be generous and say, this plane will have a 20% likelihood of reaching its destination. Would you get on that plane?
Nope.
It depends on how I'm feeling that day. Like, it depends on how...
Well, I'm a skydiver,
what
so...
bills I have to pay. I got my parachute. I'm not worried. No, but I mean, I think when it comes down...
my parachute only has 9% chance of opening.
9%, yeah, right? That's basically... I think 12 steps, it's hard for people. Number one, I think for a lot of people, it's the commitment that makes it difficult. And then it just sometimes, if you're in those kind of programs, more power to you. But I think for some people, it's just not the right kind of recovery. It feels a little cultish. It feels a little like, if you deviate from this, you're going to fail. And that ultimatum kind of scares people.
Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure.
It is. I do know what you mean. And one of the pressures is that they meticulously count days and you get coins for every 1 day or a week or month or whatever. And then if you slip, you're no longer able to chair meetings, and then you go back to zero. And what I teach people is if you're going to count days, then just keep counting. So if you're 10 days sober and you have a slip, then the next day you're back on the horse and you have another successful day, then that's day 11. Because just by having a slip or relapse doesn't negate all the success that you've had.
Absolutely.
They do the same thing with smokers.
Yep.
What, you can go out and you get the patches, you can get the lozenges, you can do all this other stuff. But even on the package, it says, what happens if I actually have a cigarette? Well, continue. I mean, you don't go back to day zero. You don't have to go back to the 4 milligram just because you're on the 2 milligram because you had one cigarette.
Relax, kid. Exactly. It's crazy.
And we do the same thing with what we teach. We take people out and they have anxiety. Then they go into a new situation. This going back to our previous episode. These scam artists fly somebody out to the Bahamas, teach them for 6 days for $83,000. And then they go back home Well, it's not the same situation. So their anxiety level and all that courage and core confidence that they just thought just went out the window because they're back at home.
Yeah.
Their anxiety level goes up because now they're in a situation they're not familiar with.
Right.
Yeah. It happens far too often. And it's a shame. And I like what you said, like just keep counting the days. Especially because it really does kind of make you feel like garbage. You know what I mean? Like, let's say you're like, oh, I'm 3 years sober. And you relapse one day and they're like, nope, you're a peon
back
again.
to zero.
You know? Yeah. And so I like that. I like that you tell people keep counting the days, especially when it comes to something like this, because I can't imagine, like you said, with your cell phone in your pocket, your computer at your fingertips, your brain, just constantly working.
Blocking you.
Right. It's not like you can put a patch on.
I guess you can self-install NetNanny, but you set the password.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What I recommend for people, there's all the filters. If you're struggling with porn addiction, you need to bring someone else into the fold with you. And there's something called accountability software. Basically, what it does is it lets your ally or your accountability partner know that, hey, they viewed porn. The filters absolutely are a must if you have kids. In fact, I say if you have kids and you are giving them a unfiltered phone, that's like child abuse.
Yeah.
I actually
you
agree
need to have a filter.
I do think that's very true. Especially because you can't, I mean, the internet's advanced so far as far as technology, you can't necessarily technically control things, but at least you can put all the strategies in place to control things. If you have 8-year-olds, anyone between 8 and honestly anyone younger than 16 coming to you saying, hey, I think I might have a porn addiction, my first question is, where the fuck are your parents?
Yeah.
I was going to say, because I mean, I don't know about you guys, but there was no way at 8 years old my parents were letting me get away with anything.
Yeah.
It's really pervasive. You wouldn't believe it. In fact, a good friend of mine contacted me because he found extensive pornography on his 12-year-old boy's phone. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Focusing on the relationship aspect, if you suspect that your boyfriend or girlfriend is addicted to porn, it's something that they've got to change on their own. You can't make them do it. This is really strong. It's really powerful. Or if you're dating someone and you think, well, I'm going to change him or her to not use porn, boy, you got a really hard, long road.
Yeah, it's not going to change. And we run into that with people that they're in a relationship. And I call it the comfort relationship, where most of the time they've moved in together, but the relationship has fallen apart. One person wants to leave, but they are financially tied to the other person. So they just decide, well, this is life. Guess we're getting married, but it's not what they want. And they think that, well, if I just work with them long enough, or if I keep nagging enough, they're going to change.
Yeah.
If it's their core character, they're not going to change.
Absolutely. And that's it.
We do have a way of showing people how to change their character, but it is a long, hard road to go down it.
It is quite arduous, Father.
The question to ask is, how is this affecting your life? If they are watching porn and everything's good, then I guess no harm, no foul. But if your relationship is in distress, the pornography is not helping.
Yeah.
Nope. It's like having a baby.
Yeah.
Just doesn't make sense.
And I've worked with people where they've come to me and they passed my critique. So I actually will start showing them how to meet somebody. And then I hear back from them like 2 or 3 months later, and they're like, I don't understand. Well, what went wrong? Well, we were in the bedroom and I saw this thing on the internet and I was like, oh God, no, man. You can't just reach up and start choking her without her permission.
Right.
I mean, yes, without permission. Okay. Yeah. I was going to say, I mean, you can. Yeah, it's
you
weird.
can, but they don't have those discussions about sex before they actually have sex. And myself and Ashley have repeated this several times. If you can't talk about it, you shouldn't be doing it.
Yes. Is this a secret? That's a great thing you brought up. Is this a secret? If your pornography use is a secret, I have to ask yourself, well, why is that? And why?
What
and
are you
can't bring this
of?
up with you. Right. Exactly.
It can be used to a healthy extent, but if it's a problem for one person, then that healthy extent really isn't there.
Right.
Right.
Ask
Talk
yourself,
about chicken and the egg here.
right.
Yeah.
Is this the type of person that you want to become? Would you teach your child to do this? Is this bringing you closer to or further away your major objectives in life? If your objective is to get married, is this bringing you closer to that or further away?
Yeah.
Would you do this to someone you love? That to me is like the number one question. Like, would you actually do this, or are you just shame watching? You know what I mean? Like, are you just trying to fire up some neurons? Like, because you're
Right.
so bored with all of the other things that you've seen. And I think, did it, I don't know how this works science-wise, but did you see a progression from what you started with to what you ended with?
Absolutely.
Did things get real weird?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. The thing that was really starting to disturb me, I am a straight white male, and I was starting to watch transsexual porn. But then I asked myself, would I fall in love with a man? I'm like, well, absolutely not. But why am I watching transsexual porn? And so, yeah, I absolutely saw progression, and that is very, very common. You need something harder and harder
Yep.
that can get really disgusting. There's a thing called bukkake. It gets really nasty.
Yeah, that's weird to know what these things are that you're talking about and not feel like a piece of like weird. Like when you say you're like, there's things like this, and I'm like, I know what that is, and then I'm like, oh my god, what is wrong with me? You know?
Yeah.
I don't want to take this in a totally separate direction, but
Probably should.
when I worked in the jails and the prisons, we had areas specifically designated for pedophiles. And when I talked with them and you find out what their story is, you find out that they went from something that was rather normal, but the people that were in it became younger and younger.
Ew.
Yeah, here, I'm going to share something very disturbing if you want me to.
Absolutely.
There was I can't remember his name. I probably shouldn't say his name anyway. Anyway, there was
Don't say
a
anyone's
notorious serial killer. And he said, not all people that view pornography become serial killers, but all serial killers watch pornography.
Yeah, actually, I'm familiar with that.
I think all people try it.
Everybody tries it at least once.
Well, he meant compulsively.
Yeah.
Really?
And actually, in the drug world, when I took the witness stand and they're like, well, how can you say that? Because, I would lay out everything on the table that we pulled as evidence. I was pulling evidence that even the other officers were like, are you serious? You're going to take the dildo in as evidence? Yes, I am. And they're like, why? Because when you have drugs, you have sex.
Right.
Very much.
I've actually won just from the pornography and the sex toys and everything else that the prosecution put out on the table.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's great that you did that.
Well, those were drug cases, but the sex and pornography were definitely interlinked. Like I said, I didn't want to go
Let me change directions here real quick because we're getting really dark.
Yeah.
but
It's really upsetting me, guys.
let me suggest this in relationships. If you are a man and you want to get into a relationship or get married, that there's a new positive, powerful, masculine sex symbol in the world. And it's a man with sexual integrity, a man who transforms his sexual energy to positively impact the world. So they're taking all their sexual energy and putting it out into the world to achieve their goals. There's some guys now that are choosing not to view porn. And there's some other guys that are even choosing not to masturbate. They call it now fapping. It's called the no-fap movement. Yeah. So that's a whole other thing there. But there's a book called Think and Grow Rich, and there's a chapter called The Mystery of Sex Transmutation. And it talks about taking your sex energy and using it to productively impact the world. And so when you're out talking with a woman, they will notice that vibrant sexual energy in you because you're not dissipating it all on porn.
Right. That's part of what we actually show for guys when you approach a woman is you want to approach them as authentically as possible. And it's very powerful. If you're not sitting there constantly thinking about, oh, I wonder if she gets into this position. I wonder if I can do that to her. When you don't have that going through your head, you actually are much more powerful when you are talking and approaching because you're not sitting there constantly staring at her chest. You can actually
Absolutely.
look them in the
it's
eye.
not weird and uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Imagine that, making people comfortable. Maybe don't want to like be around you or anything like that.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about your book, because I know you have your free ebook. So I want to jump into that real quick. Let's move on to the recovery part.
Sure.
So you decided you were powerful instead of powerless. And what made you go into coaching it?
Well, one of the things I really enjoy, I like helping people. For many years, I was really into self-development and personal improvement, things like that. And what I was learning in the 12-step meetings was kind of the opposite of that. And I wanted to help people. I enjoyed coaching, speaking, and it just seemed like a natural progression. I got certified as it's called a mindful habit coach. I'm trained specifically for sex and porn addiction. And so then I have now my audiobook, Everything You Know About Sex and Porn Addiction is Wrong, the 21 myths about sex and porn addiction. And that's a pretty bold statement to say everything you know about sex and porn addiction is wrong. I mean, that's really,
say that.
Yeah. But there's a reason I can make that statement is because if you go the traditional route, sex addiction or porn addiction is based on the disease-based model of addiction. They call it a disease. And that's one of the other problems I had with the 12-step programs. They told me I had a disease. And I thought, man, how did I catch this disease? Was this genetic? Did I catch it from someone?
Yeah, diseases are something you catch, not something you develop.
But the traditional model, if you go to a psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever, they are based on the disease-based model of addiction. And the disease-based model also says that you have this for life. And it's this is a very disempowering way to look at things. So I do not follow the disease-based model of addiction. That's why the title can be Everything You Know About Sex and Porn Addiction is Wrong, because most likely, if you looked it up, it's based on that data.
Okay. I dig that.
Just the data that I've gone through, a lot of it is based on the disease model.
Yeah.
There was a study done where they thought they had a slam dunk as far as identifying people with hypersexual problems.
Mm-hmm.
And it was done on the P300 value, where if you take somebody who has a drug addiction or an alcohol addiction and you show them drugs or alcohol, you get this huge spike. Well, they got that on a couple of people with hypersexual problems. But when they did a larger study, it wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
And people want to go look at that. It's in the socioaffective neuroscience and psychology.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
look it up.
Ashley had, asked, what are some of the solution here?
Yeah.
One of the things, if you are listening to this right now and you think you are addicted to pornography, reach out to help. Reach out to a priest, a therapist, a coach. Reach out for help, because I can tell you this, because I've talked to hundreds of guys, if not thousands at this point, that you can't do this alone. This can be really challenging.
Yes.
This is a part of you. Sexuality, it's not alcohol that's outside of you. This is sexuality. It is a part of you. So reach out for help. If you're young, reach out to your mom and dad. But reach out for help. You cannot do this alone.
Yeah, because just some of the traits that were found, and I'm just going back to university studies, this University of Leicester out of the UK, where they researched a bunch of people and they found that they had certain traits about them. It was neuroticism, agreeableness. They had just these checking behaviors that made them not sociable. People didn't want to be around them because the agreeableness, we call that validation, constantly seeking validation from somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a turnoff.
Right.
After a while, they're just like, why are you asking me permission? Stop it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's very true. It's weird. It's like I said, this is a very tough thing to navigate. I think there's a lot of nuances involved. But then, what do you think so you have the 21 myths, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So give us like two myths that people just constantly get wrong that aggravate the hell out of you. What are two of them?
Well, I've mentioned a couple of them already. One is counting days. That's a surefire way to prolong your agony.
Yeah.
Right.
So don't count days. I mean, there are ways to do it besides the way that I mentioned. I mean, you do need to have some data, but that's one. The other myth is that, well, people just think addiction. They think, oh, 12-step meetings. I should go to a 12-step meeting. That's not the most effective way.
I can totally agree with that.
No, I 100% agree with that. Absolutely. Yeah. So let's talk about this exorcism thing, because I can't leave here without addressing the concept of an exorcism. When we talk exorcism, are we talking like Catholic Church, cross on forehead?
Yes.
That is insane.
Okay, so there is something below an exorcism. So the Catholic priest has their tools available. The exorcism is the last resort, okay? And there is something called an obsession that is before a possession, and that is, I had this procedure, if you will, done on me, and that's a whole other story. And to be real honest, I'm not yet to the well, it did for a short period of time, but in the future, I was just talking to someone recently about this, and this is the first I've actually divulged this ever on the air. It's right on your show here.
You know me.
Let's just put it this way. You know those ghost hunting shows?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of those.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't recommend mixing paranormal and porn. It's not a good mix. And I'm not prepared yet to divulge that story. It's very...
Well, that's okay. I mean, you don't have to divulge
disturbing,
anything that you don't want to.
I'll just say that, you know, if you are addicted to porn and you're doing ghost hunting stuff, don't do it.
That sounds insane. Don't do it? Okay, so cool. I'm going to cancel mine. I just scheduled one.
I can tell you when I do divulge it, and it's honestly probably going to be a couple of years. It's just, there's a lot to it. It's going to be called paranormal porn. And about, it's going to be a little bit about how, you know, I was deep into the pornography, and I opened the door to the spirit world communication, and I got bit bad.
Can I pre-order this?
Yeah, it's gonna be a while before I can divulge that whole thing. That's awesome. It's literally could be a movie. I mean, I'm not exaggerating at all. I look at my life and I'm literally like, I live in the Twilight Zone. Like some of those things that happened to me. So yeah,
right. Like what you're describing sounds amazing to read about, but I'm sorry you had to go through it.
Yeah, I wouldn't wish it on anyone. That's a story for another day.
I used to be a screenwriter for movies, and I'm just going like, this is the pivotal scene.
I'll tell you this much. I'll tell you this much. I had a question about whether or not the other side existed. And I absolutely, unequivocally, without any shadow of a doubt, know for sure there is another side.
Okay, yeah. So in 2 years, whenever this comes out,
you'll be one of the first to get a copy. But anyway, the whole relationship thing, you know, if you feel like you're addicted, reach out for help. If you think you're going to change your boyfriend, you're not going to. They have to do it for themselves.
Yes. Even if you're going to try and change your girlfriend, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's kind of like trying to get somebody to quit smoking. They have to actually want to quit.
Right.
Nope. Doesn't happen. So where do people find you?
Yes.
Just go to powerfuleric.com. On powerfuleric.com, if you want a copy of the audiobook, send me an email at eric@powerfuleric.com. I'll give you a free copy of my audiobook, Everything You Know About Sex and Porn Addiction is Wrong. And if you'd like a consultation with me, if you go to powerfuleric.com, you'll see a button to click and you can do a completely free consultation with me. It really is a true coaching session. I'll give you all I got. You tell me your story. I'll do my best to coach you with that free coaching session at powerfuleric.com. And don't be shy. Believe me, I've heard it all. I've heard it all. So don't be bashful. Just reach out to me there at powerfuleric.com.
And your podcast, Porn Talk, where can they find that?
Yeah, that's on all the major platforms, on iTunes, on Spotify, all the major platforms that's out there. Porn Talk. But Porn Talk is not just about breaking addictions. It's about breaking belief systems. And so if you have some other addictions, or it's more than just porn.
Yeah.
And you can also find the link to my show on powerfuleric.com. There's a link to my podcast on my website.
For anybody listening to this, look in the show notes. We'll have all the links placed there.
Yeah.
And we thank you for coming on. I think we've definitely nailed it. And if we combine this with our episode with a girlfriend who had her boyfriend was watching too much porn, I hope she's listening.
Right.
So hopefully got this website I want you to take a look at.
Yeah. And let me speak to the person, right? There's a person out there right now that's listening to this that thinks they may have an addiction. Reach out to help. If not to me, reach out for help.
Yes.
Can't do this alone.
We've done the same thing. We're not the end-all, be-all to dating and relationships. There might be other courses out there, other instructors that they explain things differently. And we've actually had one of them on our show last season. He explains things differently. He may be a better fit than we are. There's options. Explore your options and find out what works for you.
Yes.
Yeah. Any departing wisdom?
Well, I guess that was it right there. Reach out for help. But I wanted to congratulate you guys because I know that this is episode number 101. So I am privileged to be on your show for that accomplishment.
We were kind of surprised when Eric mentioned it to us because I was like, I just count the seasons and the episodes.
Right. We didn't know.
Episode 18, episode 19.
And I got to tell you, these 100 episodes wouldn't be possible. Like, they would not be possible if it wasn't for you guys. I mean, even during our hiatuses, even during, John breaking his wrist and us not having power or any of that stuff, you guys have stuck with us all year long for the last year and a half almost. And, I mean, we are seeing downloads that we didn't even know were possible when we first started. So, congratulations, guys. You have brought us to 100 episodes. Here's to 103 more.
Yes. So, we want to thank everybody. So if you need any coaching, if you're looking at dating relationship sides, that's us. If you got a problem with porn or any kind of other addiction, Powerful Eric, great friend. I want you guys to go check him out, see what he's got for you, because he might have some bits of wisdom that, well, we overlook.
Overlook always.
Yeah.
As always, guys, don't forget to like, rate, share, subscribe, tell your mom, tell a friend, tell anybody who will listen to you about the show. Always leave us comments. If you need to reach us, you can always reach us on Facebook, possibly on Instagram, or you can go to the website, girlsaskguyshow.com. Write us in, but always let us know how we're doing. Tell us some great things, feed our egos, and we love you so much. Thank you.
Yes, and with that, we will talk to you on the next one.
That's all for this episode of the Girls Ask Guys show, where all of us learn to master this thing called life together. For more answers to your questions on life and love, be sure to subscribe to the show so you don't miss a single episode. And head to girlsaskguysshow.com to submit your questions for a future episode or apply to be a guest on the show. Good luck out there, and we'll catch you next time, right here on the Girls Ask Guys show.